So starting with section 1, the purpose of the internship, its evolution and current student mindsets. Swati, my first question to you. When we spoke, you fondly mentioned about your internship at HUL and how it shaped your life and who you are as a person. Now, fast forward to internships today. There's so much we hear of industry exploiting students by asking them to do menial jobs without even getting paid. Are we treating our students as adults and with respect?
I think for every, for any story, there is a good and bad. And I think what you say is reality. So let's not walk away from that. Yes, there are situations where this is happening. It's definitely not happening in top tier industry. It's definitely not happening with the large employers. In fact, I mean, for organizations like ours, we're not even allowed to hire an unpaid intern. So, that's not even an option. So I think it does exist. Part of it, I believe, exists out of two things, and I'm going back to your question. Are we treating our interns as adults? I think, adult doesn't need to be treated as an adult. They would treat themselves as an adult. So I think I want to go back to that very fundamental principle. And it's partly demand and supply. It's partly parental pressure. It's partly societal pressure of wanting to have a CV which says, I did 75 things in 3 days. And that's great. And unfortunately, it makes me feel sad because it doesn't add anything to the CV really, because really good organizations, when they're hiring you, are not interested in whether you did 75 different internships, but what did you do there? And was it really of some use? So I think it really comes out of that, saying, is it happening? Yes. Is it unfortunate? Yes. Is it something that we should encourage as academia, as organizations, and as employers? Absolutely not. But I also believe that students have a big role to play in this themselves, saying, how do they treat themselves and how do they expect to be treated, and to push back if what they're working on is not meaningful, is not exciting. It's not about money. For me, of course, you shouldn't have anyone who's unpaid, absolutely. But I may choose to take on an internship, for example, in the nonprofit sector, and that may be unpaid, and that's fine. But what am I doing there is really important. And I'd really want to give that back to the students, saying, do something that's meaningful.
Thanks, Swati. So essentially what you're saying is that, this disparity does exist. It's not, although it's different at different segments in society. And you mentioned an interesting point, which is adults treating themselves as adults. And with that, I will come to Professor Jain. Professor Jain, I know how big a proponent you are for students to get diverse experiences, but students today seem desperate to put a number of internships on their resume as a stamp. They make themselves so easily available for any kind of work. For every one intern who asks for money, there are 3 interns willing to work for free. Now, is this mindset contributing to industry taking advantage of free labor?
I think Swati has answered this question quite well. There are colleges and colleges, and there are industries and industries. I remember when I joined IIT Gandhinagar in 2009, one of the senior alum from a first generation IIT visited me and said, how can I help you? I said, help me find some good opportunities for my students to do summer internship. And he said, Professor Jain, in Gujarat, the companies charge money for providing internship. I said, Mr. Such and Such, you are talking about wrong students and wrong companies. Both are wrong. I'm not looking for companies that charge money. I'm looking for companies that will give money. And I'm offering the students that will be worth that money. Having said that, I do think that money is an interesting contractual arrangement, wherein if I have a student working for me from another institution free, I don't have that much moral authority to ask him to do this or ask her to do that, or demand that they not waste my time but deliver something worthwhile. In my academic career at Kanpur, would never accept any student and not pay. This is not acceptable to me. That is exactly what I heard from Swati, that she is not, her company would not accept that. Similarly, when we started, although we said every internship opportunity to our students should be paid, but we realized that many times good companies are offering interesting opportunities, or social sectors, as Swati said, wherein we would still want our students to avail. And we found a via media where we created a pool of money at IIT Gandhinagar, and we said any such student, and this is regardless of their financial need, regardless of how rich their parents are or not well off, we said we will pay for some nominal stipend, so that the student is under moral obligation that this is something that they have to make good use of as an opportunity. So I would say, frankly, that there are several aspects of this problem. It's a very multidimensional problem. On one side, money matters. On the other side, as a young student, you should be like a sponge. You should absorb the opportunity. You should not care whether there is money or not. Your time is more precious. Your time is most important. And certificate doesn't matter. In IIT Gandhinagar, we run social projects for neighboring villages where we teach the neighboring young people, young ladies, stitching or carpentry or many skills. And one of the rules we made was we will not give any certificate. We as a policy would not give certificate because we don't want anybody to come to us saying कि stitching करने से सीखूं नहीं सीखूं certificate मिल जाएगा. नहीं, अगर stitching करने सीखना है तो आजा, certificate चाहिए तो कहीं और जाओ. So I think the student should be hungry. They should be like sponge. They should just take the opportunity with both hands and make good use of it. Doesn't matter money is there or not there. But as elders, as seniors, we feel that money makes it a right environment. I hope that kind of resonates.
Thank you. Yes. So what you're saying is, money is important in terms of setting a contract in that sense, but students need to be a sponge to be able to get experience, and that we'll come to that in our second section. But you also brought out the fact that there is diversity in the student sort of profile as well. So Swati, your response to what Professor Jain has mentioned and your question to him.
I love this platform because it gives an opportunity to ask questions to professors, something we wouldn't do when we were studying. So I love it. I think, one, I completely agree with you. I think it's really important to create that. And my question is really coming from there, saying, how do we create a learning continuum? And this is something that's been on my mind for a while. When students, especially from IITs, are joining the workforce today, and there's two sets of people. And as organizations, we often worry, and I've heard this on this forum multiple times in the last few days, last day and today, is this piece of saying, I want to finish my engineering and do my MBA and be done with my education and then, join an organization. Whereas actually learning is a continuum. So often really pausing after your engineering and working for a bit before you go do your master's is very useful in some ways. And how do we create that approach or that mindset while the students are still in college, and how do we encourage that, and what can industry do to participate in that journey to really encourage students to say, take a pause, work for some time, go back to your education, and that will really be very useful for both academia and industry.
I think these are things where we, the teachers, have to engage our students in a more holistic way. And I think a lot of times the communications are broken between the teachers and the students. And many times the teachers themselves are not clear what they exactly want to convey to the students. The way we look at IIT Gandhinagar, and I don't know how representative we are of the academia, is we use the word seamlessness very frequently. To us, students versus faculty, faculty versus staff, undergraduate versus postgraduate, academia versus industry, all of that has to be seamless, right? To me, my real challenge is how can I achieve that seamlessness? Now, same thing will happen with respect to a student. When the student jumps from college to an employer, can we make it more seamless? Can the student not be in one silo called college and then move into another silo called company or industry or job? And that's what we try to do. In fact, we created a thing called on-campus employment opportunity. We call it OCEO. We tried to play with the words. We wanted to make the students feel CEO, and then we put before that O chota O. So on-campus employment opportunity. And we said we would like to give part-time work to the students and demand from them the same way a time card, reporting officer, somebody writing their appraisals. They're getting a salary hike, things like that. Can we give a sort of a demanding industry job type experience while they are doing their coursework. In addition to they going in winter breaks and summer breaks and whatever it is. I think there's a lot of responsibility on we older people to prepare our future generations well and giving them various kinds of diverse experiences.
Interesting. So, so Professor Jain, can I sort of assume that then the question that you have for Swati is how do you ensure this learning continuum from college to corporate?
I would like to say that slightly differently. I would say that we, the academia, are working fairly actively, not everybody equally, but fairly actively to try to bridge the gap with the industry. So we are not talking at each other, but talking to each other. And I would be curious to know if there is a discussion in the industry also about that, about bridging the gap with the academia, or it is that, let them come and bridge the gap.
Interesting. So that leads me into my second section of this discussion, which is where's the rubric and are internships really the only way out? And Swati, I'll come to you first because this is in relation to what Professor Jain was saying was, does industry have a way to measure a student's accomplishment while in an internship? And further, is it fair to only expect academia to solve for, providing these experiences, considering the diverse and fast changing needs that industry has? And going back to now the question he was asking, which is how is industry thinking of shaping the academic curriculum jointly?
There are lots of questions. Let me give them a shot. First, I think, do we like an ongoing dialogue with academia or education? I think absolutely yes. I don't think there is any two ways about it. We strongly believe that that's the way to go and participate very actively. I think curriculums are hard because they follow their own process in terms of what can be done or cannot be done in a curriculum. But I do see tremendous opportunity to define internships very tightly in consultation with the professors. And today, honestly, that does not exist. I see a value of that. I came from an institution called the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, and one thing we had was field work. And when we actually went out for our field work, which was nothing but on campus experiences for jobs, we actually had to write journals. And our mentor at the corporate office and our professor at the school actually interacted through those journals to see what we were learning and how we were practicing. Those practices are fast disappearing. And therefore, there's really no ongoing dialogue that's happening between the summer intern corporate guide and the academic professor who's actually supposed to be responsible for the student. And I think those mechanisms will really help, saying what is the student actually doing back at the corporate, and how do the professors take that back at college? And similarly, what can the professor tell us about the student where we could actually best utilize their superpower in the 2 months that they're with us? And I think there's these huge opportunities that we could work with, but there is no mechanism today in the way the campus programs run. And I worry that many of these campus programs today don't necessarily involve academia at all, because it's almost like the students take over during that period in terms of how the campus placement process will happen. And I think there's an opportunity there for all of us to get better in terms of what we do.
Yeah, no, what's interesting is you brought this whole dynamic of having the guide at the workplace connect with the professor in college to be able to, in some ways mentor the student and then reflect on what the student has done, which is very interesting. So, Professor Jain, coming to you, how would you think about measuring the success of an internship using a rubric and taking what Swati is saying a little forward to say, if you had professors who could collaborate with these guides in the corporate workplace, how do you think that could happen?
So, last question first. I would be delighted to work with Swati and create a prototype. We are a very small school. We are a very, very tiny college. And for tiny colleges, prototypes work very well. We would be very happy to try a prototype where the faculty and her people will collaborate without taxing each other too much. Because anything where you raise too much expectations of time on people, it doesn't work. So you have to just give just enough, but not too much of the time. So that is one thing. To my mind, really, it is about two aspects. One is do you see internships as a compulsory part of curriculum or optional part of curriculum? I'm a great believer in young people taking their own destiny in their own hands. And I believe in minimal compulsory stuff. So at IIT Gandhinagar, we practically have every student doing at least one, sometimes two, sometimes three internships in summers, but it is never compulsory. We make it an interesting opportunity for them. We say, it is up to you, your life. You want to do it, we are happy to help you. The moment you say it is your option and you should do it if you feel like doing it, I think the response improves. The moment I say it is compulsory, they try to find out how can I beat the system, how can I reduce the commitment and get my certificate and check the boxes. So that is one aspect. The second aspect entirely is about the environment, I think. You may write any matrices, you may create any checklists and things like that. Ultimately, it is really the atmosphere of the college, atmosphere of the organization where the kid is going. What is it that is in the air? Mahal kya hai? What is it that the young person is setting out with mindset of? If I'm sending somebody to work with Swati's colleagues, before the student leaves, what is in his mind? And then after the kid goes to her colleagues, what is it that he or she is observing there with other interns, with other supervisors? I think these are the two most important things. These are somewhat perhaps not very measurable things, but these are some things you can experience, you can feel. If you talk to 4 students in the hostel area, you will understand what is the atmosphere for internship, what do the students think. And perhaps same thing can perhaps be said about the organization. At IIT Gandhinagar, we created, as a part of our ethical framework, we created almost 15 to 20 internship opportunities, where every year we take students, young, fresh graduates from library science, from sports, from horticulture, from various domains, and keep them for 1 year, once in a while, 1.5 years, give them a decent stipend, let them work with us for a year and a half, and they typically are able to get decent jobs after that, because that training is quite worthwhile for them. So my thought is that if the atmosphere in which the young person is coming, and if it is professional, they will pick up, they will learn.
Got it. So you're saying that, so while Swati is echoing the fact that professors and guides at corporate need to collaborate maybe on a better rubric, you're taking that one step further to say the cultures need to match.
No, I'm not saying, no, culture should not match.
Okay.
I mean, the whole idea of giving a student a diverse experience is that the kid is getting a different culture and different experience. That is how he's getting enriched, actually. I don't want him to go from IIT Gandhinagar to another IIT Gandhinagar. I want him to go to a different culture, come back enriched, and share interesting stuff that he or she observed there.
Got it. As long as the environment matches.
But no. The culture has to be serious about, about internship, where the student says, I will have fun, but I will also learn. It is not only just work and no fun. It should be fun and work together.
Got it. Swati, your response to Professor Jain and one question to him.
There's this interesting piece on, creating the right experience for the intern at workplace. And I think many organizations, and again, I mean, there is a continuum. Of course, there are some who don't care, but most that I know of, or at least I've had the privilege of working with, care a lot about the experience they provide the intern and making sure that they are learning and making sure that they're also contributing. One of the things which is about the right expectation setting, about it being a workplace. And of course, there's got a lot of fun at workplace. All of us have fun at workplace. That's why we survived 20 years plus. But I think it's important to set that expectation, saying it is, at the end of the day, a workplace and no longer a school or a college. And there is a difference. I wonder whether we have the right mechanisms today to actually do that and actually educate students before they step out to say, what is the difference between a workplace and, the confines of your home or college?
I agree. I would go one step backwards, and I would say even the college should be a serious enterprise, right? I don't subscribe to it that our brightest young people come to IIT Gandhinagar and then they say, "Ho gaya, life set." I don't believe in that. And we therefore make a very serious effort where when the students join us for their BTech program, for first 5 weeks, we don't teach them any class. From 6:30 in the morning to 9:30 in the evening, we run practically a boot camp to give them some really different type of mindset, different type of attitudes. And as a result, we don't have a problem of students missing classes. We don't have problems of students being students in a typical college. I feel that this is something that colleges have to see very, very seriously, that college should not be seen as lightly as sometimes we mention it to be. If you do that, then the student will transit so easily, so beautifully, because then the student will have all the framework for adjusting to a new environment.
Interesting. So before we move to the third section, Professor Jain, would you like to ask Swati your question?
I really wonder, what is the bandwidth? Can somebody do a back of the envelope calculation and say, what is the bandwidth that the industry has for providing internships, and bandwidth in terms of time, money, resources, office space? I remember as a professor of civil engineering at Kanpur IIT, many times I would approach a consulting engineer, engineering office in Bombay or Delhi, and I'll say, can I send 2 students? And they'll say, look, my office has no space. I cannot give them a table and a chair to work on. And therefore, it is a waste of opportunity for your students. So I really wonder if somebody has ever looked at, and maybe some company or some CII, FICCI type organization, if somebody could do a bandwidth calculation, what is the potential on a conservative estimate? Any thoughts on that?
I think that's a very interesting topic. Again, I think many large organizations do that. I mean, because they measure internship experience as a very conscious factor, obviously they do that, saying, what's the bandwidth? And there are multiple internal mechanisms, in fact, which our managers possibly don't like much on checking as to how they're really, interacting with the experience of the intern. But I don't think we have an industry-wide mechanism to do that, saying, okay, there are X number of organizations and what can be done. And it's an interesting topic to take back to some of the forums. I'm sure I will. I'm sure, Nikhil, you will, through the forums Harappa will represent. And it's a very interesting topic to think about.
If I could ask a supplementary on that, for example, in your organization, for how many employees versus how many interns is the bandwidth? Is there a rough number? For 5 employees, 1 intern, or 10 employees, 1 intern? What is it? Can we say something?
I think the way we do it is slightly different. And that's because of obviously the current mechanism of how we do it. And it's a very pet subject of mine in terms of internship versus mentorship. But let me put it like this, saying internship today, because it has, even in the college parlance, a need for conversion to full-time jobs. And honestly, industry is measured on how many interns it takes and how many it can actually convert to full-time jobs. That measurement is actually not based on our ability to take interns, but on our ability to convert interns. And that in a way is restrictive to, because we could actually provide that experience of internship to probably 3 times more the people that we actually take. But we take a fewer number because we do want to convert them into full-time jobs. And our ability to convert to full-time jobs may not be as high.
This is very interesting, because then in that case, that makes me ask whether there could be 2 tiers. One tier is those which are likely to be converted, and the second tier is which there is no commitment, there is no expectation. Interesting.
Great. So thank you for that, and that leads me, some very interesting topics, that came up, of bandwidth, of the intent of the internship, really from the employer side, to focus more on the conversion rather than sort of only experience. So moving to my third section, which is really what are some of the ways to enable access and scale experiential learning in a fast changing world of work, right? Whether these are, the role of the virtual internship or alumni. So Professor Jain, maybe I'll come to you first on this. Can the individual become the institution just like it used to be in the age-old apprenticeship. And I'd love your thought on what is the relationship academia has with its alumni. Is it a love-only relationship? Is it a love-hate relationship? And can a better job be done to engage alumni so as to build a wider and a stronger network of experiential learning opportunities where we're not only dependent on employers?
See, this is my favorite topic. I have often said that if you want to improve Indian universities, let there be only, and if you have to choose only one parameter, ask how many alumni you are able to collect 1,000 rupees in a year. What percentage of alumni? Because they will not give you 1,000 rupees if they have had a bad experience with you as a student. And in order to raise that number, you will perhaps start to treat your students better, teach them better. To my mind, a university has its alumni as their most important stakeholders. Today, I still get introduced as a graduate of Roorkee 42 years after I left college. After 42 years, still I'm told, oh, Sudhir is a graduate of Roorkee. So if Roorkee goes up, I go up. If Roorkee goes down, I go down. But as a teacher, I worked at Kanpur IIT, I left. I will work at IIT Kanpur, I will leave. But Roorkee, I can never leave. So to my mind, alumni are the most important stakeholders of a college. And a college has to see that they nurture that relationship in a very, very positive way. And once you do that, I think sky is the limit. You can really achieve a lot. I must add, Nikhil, one very interesting statistics. In 2020-21, 55% of alumni of IIT Gandhinagar made a cash contribution to IIT Gandhinagar. 55%. Undergraduates, postgraduates. I don't know of any institution in India or around the world which would have such a high ratio for undergraduates and postgraduates together. And to me, that gives a tremendous strength to a college. In terms of network, in terms of opportunities for mentorship, in terms of support, in terms of anything that you want.
But sir, just to add to that, how do we think of, having alumni contribute more than just being able to, provide donations as a gift back?
See, donation, somebody giving, see, our average donation from the alumni is 3,500 rupees. Right? Which is not nothing. It is not really money. My money coming from alumni is less than 2% of the total philanthropic money I raise in a year. So it is really not, I'm talking about money. I'm talking about measurement. The fact that 55% students this year gave money versus 50% previous year versus 40% the previous year, it means I'm doing all right. But if this 55% goes down to 35%, I should worry about it. So that is what I mean. It is really not money. It is really the connection. It is really the engagement. I would use the word engagement. Now, once they are engaged, once somebody is giving 1,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees or 1,00,000 rupees, they're engaged. Now you can ask for help. You can ask for internship. You can ask for connections. If there is a bad thing happening in the college, they will write you an email. They will say, hey, Professor Jain, what is happening in the college? We hear bad things happening. They are now engaged. They are involved. And they will take care of the junior students. They will worry about the college. That is what I'm trying to say.
Understood. Swati, coming to you, I know you mentor students in a personal capacity, and my question to you is, why can't structured mentoring serve the purpose of experiential learning? And maybe this is not connected to your previous point of the fact that an organization needs to focus on how many people it needs to convert. But where I'm going with this is to really get your views on how do we think about scaling experiential learning, and can there be structured programs within companies for people to be able to spend time with students to give them projects or work on projects?
I think structured programs around mentorship definitely exist within the organization with reference to students outside of the organization. But they're primarily around today underprivileged students or students with backgrounds where they cannot have access to that kind of mentorship. And that's something that works very well. And a lot of people donate their time for that. What I don't see, neither do I get invited to it, let me put it like that, right? Is to mentor students maybe in colleges, which are really top tier colleges. And to me, that's a possible gap staring at us in the face. And I know we have a few entrepreneurs on the bridge today, and probably we're going to walk away with some business ideas here, is how do you create scalable platforms where students could actually reach out to their alumni to seek mentorship? And that mentorship has nothing but pure mentorship, right? So spending time while they're studying to say, what is industry all about? I'm writing this paper, how do things work in the industry. I think it's a great opportunity, which creates a lot of bridges, which creates a lot of opportunity, and a lot of the alumni would just do this, right? I mean, it's 1 hour of your time a week or 1 hour of your time a month. Everybody's willing to do that for an alumni, but I don't see scalable mechanisms to do this.
So you're saying that there is scope, and essentially, principally, is the organization open to mentoring students who, across a bunch of colleges and not restricted to a certain segment? You're
absolutely
saying that.
I think absolutely. I mean, I don't see that as a challenge at all. I mean, at Amazon, anybody who interviews with us, we offer a free session how to crack our interview. So why we would love to mentor students. I think it's a great opportunity to build long bonds. And eventually, when the quality of students entering corporations improve, and when I don't mean that they're bad, but when the overall quality goes up, the economy benefits, every organization benefits, right? And I think it's a fundamental of economics that it's a great thing for everyone.
Professor Jain, your response to Swati and a question for her?
See, I see college enterprise in today's time, especially college like us at IIT Gandhinagar, as three verticals. One is the academic vertical, the standard courses you do, get a degree. The second is wellness vertical, mental health, physical health, financial health, social background, language issues, whatever it is. That is what Swati was referring to about mentoring the weak students, so students needing help. And the third vertical, I think, which is very, very important, is to take the students to a higher plane, to give them professional skills, leadership, life skills, and things like that. And I think that the colleges need to develop the later two verticals much better than what they do today. There is too much focus on academic credentials, coursework, getting grades, percentage of marks or CPI or whatever it is. But I think they need to look at what is it that we need to do for the bottom 25% of our students, which is the second vertical, the wellness vertical. Bottom 25%, not in terms of grades, but in terms of general overall profile. And then what do we need to do to top 50% of our students to make them industry leaders? And that is the third vertical. And these two are requiring totally different ingredients. This formula will have to be different, and they will have to be handled separately. So this is something that I think will be a great experiment to do with some corporates. For at least IIT Kanaga will be excited to do.
Professor Jain, your final question to Swati.
I would say that it is a privilege to be with you, Swati, and to talk to you. And I don't have a question, but I have a threat that you might receive an email from me, and I might take some of the discussion forward with you and see if you would be interested.
Absolutely. I don't see that as a threat at all. It's awesome if we can, and I deeply appreciate, and the privilege is all mine. really appreciate. If there is any audience question, Nikhil, that is unanswered, happy to take it just as we close.
Yes, so I will just go through this. So I think Mr. Shekhar is asking a question again around the idea of the unpaid internship, and does it really speak to the idea of discrimination? So how do we even think about solving the aspect of employers sort of giving out these unpaid internships, and what are your thoughts on that?
I think I want to set this in context. I think there are types of unpaid internships. There are organizations, unfortunately, I would say, who end up using this as free labor, which is rather unfortunate. And I strongly don't subscribe to that. And I don't know what mechanisms exist unless some student brings it up saying this is happening, right? There is no way to track this and measure this and solve for it. So I don't subscribe to it at all. There is another set of people, and I get a lot of these requests from a lot of parents saying that, my child is free in summer, just give them something to do, right? And that's not really an unpaid internship. Now, we still don't do it because as a policy, we never take unpaid interns. But I'm sure there are other organizations or places where people may be saying, okay, why not? Yeah, come over to my office and spend writing, maybe doing this. Now, that's not technically free labor, but because it's a mutual understanding between two people saying, let me provide an experience. And I think what we need is a broader discussion and an understanding on what is experience, what is internship. Internship is when you're doing something which is going to in a very concrete manner, you're given a problem to solve for the industry. You're gaining experience in the process, and the organization is helping groom you for your eventual job. Well, that's one thing, and that's internship in its real sense. And you linked it to apprenticeship in some form, right? I mean, that's what it really comes from. The second part of it is experience, and pure experience, which is simply say, come spend some time with me, get mentored, learn a bit, and maybe you will give a few ideas and write a few things, but it's really primarily for your gain and not that for the organization. And that's very different kind of a experience. And the two have their own place, and we need to find what that right place is.
Got it. Professor Jain, last question to you. Somebody from the audience is asking about, are there any other institutions we can learn from to think about experiences? And I know you had spoken about the army when we had spoken, but any thoughts on transfer of learning from other institutions?
I would only say to young people that the more diverse experiences you gain, the better you will be prepared to face the world. And that is what I tell my students. And during our conversation to you, Nikhil, I mentioned that when I notice senior army generals, Navy admirals, Air Force, Air Marshals, typically I see that somebody has done posting in Rashtrapati Bhavan, Raj Bhavan, somebody has been in an embassy, somebody has done, all kinds of diverse experiences. And in fact, one of the army generals once explained to me that is how we groom leadership, by giving them different types of experiences. And I think that is very important for young people. So don't go in a comfort zone, go in an area which is not very comfortable.
Thanks. So you basically asked all students to get extremely uncomfortable.
That's right. Absolutely.
Okay, great. So thank you, Swati and Professor Jain, for such an energetic discussion. And clearly there are multiple threads to this challenge that both academia and industry need to co-own and co-solve. And clearly some opportunities did come up in our conversations. Appreciate both of you taking out the time for this. And thank you again, and wishing you a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Nikhil. Thank you, Swati. Lovely meeting all of you.